My 2014 Ram Promaster camper van conversion. I bought this camper van. It was a tour van. Why? Because it has these amazing black wrap around windows all the way around the van. And the other reason is it was already finished with these beautiful walls. This roof with all of the lighting, these rails to hold on to for getting up and down into the van. And so it was something that I could really build on. All right, so let me show you how I installed the bed. To do that, I'm going to take it apart because what I did with this bed, which I think is actually pretty innovative and cool, is I used a method that is common out there, bed supports and slats for an Ikea bed, but I made a slight modification which makes it really easy to take all this apart. So let me show you that now. So now that I've got the mattress off, you can see the secrets of what I've done here. The secret sauce. And essentially what I've done is I've gotten these Ikea bedposts. Fairly common, not too expensive. I got 3 of them because I wanted to make this the size of a queen bed. And lengthwise, it almost is the size of a queen, a little bit shorter. It's what's called a short queen in the RV world. And you'll notice it's got these, because this used to be a tour van, it has these cup holders all over the place, which is kind of cool because when you're in bed, you know, you usually have drinks that you're drinking that you can put in these cup holders. I did have to cut the mattress a little bit to get around that. But I use these Ikea bedposts here, which are pretty common. I'll put a link in the YouTube showing you where you can get those. And if you go to customer service, you can get these things here. These are the things that hold the bed, and they'll give those to you. I needed 6. And what I did is I just bolted them in. I used rivet bolts to bolt those in here. I think it was an M8. Then, with this same bed set, there are these slats, the Leroy slats. What I did differently, a lot of people do a couple things. They worry about a lot of rattling, or they worry about how they're going to mount these to the posts and then to the hooks here at the end. I didn't worry about that. What I did is I just set these in here. They just sit in. I'll show you that in a second. And they're not screwed in at all. Then with the slats, I used Velcro on the top and the bottom so I can easily remove these slats, remove these bedposts, and remove the entire bed with ease. All right, with movie magic, that took me about a few seconds, but even in real time, it took me less than 5 minutes to take out that bed. Here's something else I want to show you. So watch behind me. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. See the lights turning on and off? What I'm doing is there's some switches over here on the console above the driver's seat that turn them on and off. Now, because this was a tour van, they were made to run when the car was on, so I had to reroute them. Let me show you what I did so that they can turn on even when the car is off. But what I did is I found that behind the wall here is where the fuse panel was, the fuse box for those switches. So I rerouted that fuse box to my own fuse box that I installed here on the wall so that I could then route this into my EcoFlow here. On the side is a DC panel where you can plug in DC. This is an Anderson plug that I then also has its own fuse for extra safety that I then put into here, and there's the fuse for those lights, and here's the lights. So I can turn them on and off, and they can be powered by the EcoFlow And if we look at the front of the EcoFlow, they take about 18 watts of power. Very minimal power. As you can see on the screen, I can run these for 5 or 6 days. Speaking of my EcoFlow, let me tell you a little bit more about it. So I did a ton of research on, the whole power electrical system in a camper van. I was prepared to get all the devices, the inverters, the batteries, the this and that and whatever. But when I looked into it, the EcoFlow has everything already inside of it. It has the AC converter, it has the DC like I just showed you that I have my lights plugged into. The AC is just like any standard outlet you plug into like at your house. You can plug anything into it. And really that seemed to be the solution for me. Now, it can't do, I think it's a rooftop AC. So if you wanted that, you would still have to come up for a solution on how to wire that. But it can power the EcoFlow AC system, which also has a battery with it that will last a very long time if you wanted to do that. So I decided to go the EcoFlow route. It's smaller, it's easier, it's more compact. And what I really love is that it's got this app to be able to monitor the system while it's working. What I've done is I've installed the EcoFlow. As you can see here, I usually have it here and it's under the bed, and I use the bedpost to keep it stable. I've got these straps that I strap it down with so that it doesn't move, and that works great. The front panel you can see right here tells you everything going on. Right now I have the lights on top on, so you see the 19 watts. However, I usually have it sort of hidden. I kind of tuck it away like this so that it's not really that visible, and you've got plenty of storage here, and it's out of the way. But it's no big deal because there's an app that you connect to where you can see everything going on. You can even control it, turn off the AC, turn on the AC, turn off and on the DC, everything from the app. So what else do I plug into it? A fridge. So this was a lot of work. This was a lot of research. What fridge to use? Because you gotta have a fridge, right? You gotta have your drinks and your food and everything if you're camping or doing whatever. That's one of the huge conveniences of a camper van or an RV. But when I was looking into it, it was gonna cost like $1,000 for an RV fridge that, everybody's going to DC because they're more efficient and all electric. And so I was looking into those, at least $1,000. There was a Camping World fridge for like $600, and I was like, wow, that seems like a great deal. But when I did my research and I was watching videos, I saw a lot of people, a lot of the van lifers that I respect, just using a regular mini fridge, like this Whirlpool that I have here, brand new. I think it's like 120 bucks. I decided, because it was going to be an experiment, I'm just going to buy one from one of the ASU students. ASU is nearby. At the end of the year, they're always selling their fridges. So I bought a used one. I think I picked this one up for 50 bucks, plugged it into my EcoFlow. It only pulls 50 or 60 watts an hour. Amazing. Super low. The EcoFlow can run that for 48 to 72 hours. No problem, right? If you're just a weekender, no big deal. But that doesn't include the charging methods that I'm using, which we'll talk about next. So anyway, I went with the regular mini fridge. What's great about the mini fridge is that even, your most typical one like this is you have the huge freezer, you have a big section for your refrigerator, easy to use, simple to plug in, bada boom, bada bing. This to me seemed like the obvious smart choice. Really, this is much more convenient than the RV fridges, which often don't have as much space as your typical mini fridge. So, how do I charge it? I've got solar power on the roof, and I'm going to show you how I install that in just a minute. But I also want to show you this beauty. This is an EcoFlow Alternator charger. So with this guy, it will charge my EcoFlow 800 watts an hour. So as you're driving along, you're just pumping juice into your EcoFlow. Let's say that you've completely exhausted all of your EcoFlow. You're at 0%. It will only take 8 hours for this baby to fill this big bad boy. And that's really, it might seem like a lot, but not really when you're driving. A lot of you van lifers or vacationers know you're driving, at least 4 to 8 hours to wherever you're headed. Maybe you're driving for a couple days if you're really out there for a long time. That's not that big of a deal. And it doesn't take into account your other more traditional charging mechanism. But let me talk about this alternator charger just for a minute to give you some details. So how do you install it? It's actually pretty easy. So if we come down here, you're going to see there are 2 wires coming out of this. You've got, these big bad boys here. One goes back into the back of the EcoFlow, and you do need an adapter. That's like $75 to plug that in. That was kind of a bummer when I got this and I didn't realize that. I was so excited to plug everything together, and I was like, no, I'm gonna have to wait 2 or 3 days for this to come in the mail. But you do need the adapter. The other side goes to the battery, and let me show you on a Ram ProMaster how you put that in. So if we go to the front, and I've already got the door open, the battery on a Ram ProMaster is actually right under your feet. And how did I route this? So you'll kind of see the wire, the cable right here, and it goes right along the wall very discreetly, and it comes into this plastic piece right here. So you'll see there's screws here. I just took out this piece, ran that cable behind it into the battery compartment, screwed those onto the battery, and it's very discreet. You can't even see the cabling at all here, to my alternator charger. So that alternator charger charges that EcoFlow at 800 watts an hour. Amazing. It's so awesome. I think it's more powerful than any other alternator charger out there. But that doesn't even include the other power I get, which especially in California and Arizona is important, which is the solar power coming from the roof. Let me tell you about how I installed that, where I installed it, and what I've got going on up there. All right, so here are my solar panels. Get a higher look here. And here's what I did. So these are typical adapters. They're really well priced, pretty easy to put in. There are actually a couple posts that these fit into, and then screws in, and then there's some screws that go up where you could screw them into something. I use this. So this is a very standard, it's called a 10 by 10 T-slot. So you've got these slots on all 4 sides. I just have plastic here covering this kind of just for looks, but they use this stuff everywhere for everything. There are lots of people who kind of typically use a larger size for roof racks like this. I use this smaller side just to be a little more discreet and to hopefully have a little less drag. One thing to consider though, space below your solar panels is a good thing because the air can pass through and they can cool down. These babies, when they get up about 90 degrees or higher, they start to be less efficient. So they are better in kind of cooler temperatures. But anyways, what's great about this stuff is it's used everywhere. In fact, if you're watching this video and you're in a cubicle, check out your cubicle because it may be made with this kind of stuff. Lots of cubicles are. But in industries, it's just so versatile, and there are so many different types of adapters and things to use on it. Like, you can see down there the little combiner guy. It just makes these really easy to use and very versatile, where you've just got lots of products that'll work with it. And I didn't want to get anything that was proprietary, where it's going to be hard for me to find or expensive for me to find different types of adapters or things to work with it. So with this, these can move back and forth. You can do whatever you want. And you'll see here, what I did is I got a couple panels, made sure that they were the right length. These are 195 watt eco-worthy panels, which are priced really good for the quality, great reviews, and they've been working great for me. I've got 2 of these babies, and I usually get 200 to 300 watts. Why do you not get the full 400? Because really you never get the full amount. You can get the most if you've got the right angle and the sun and everything's perfect, but so you'll never get a max. But I wanted to make sure that I got at least 200 to 300 watts, which I do, which is awesome and is what I need. Because these are versatile, you know, we've got these adapters that allow me to put a crossbar wherever I want. So I was able to put them at the right length. I did have to screw a screw in to the panels to be able to fit those together and hold that. And then I put another crossbar on the bottom to hold the bottom. And it's just extremely sturdy. They don't move at all. You don't hear any jostling or anything. It's really been a great solution for me. The other thing you're going to want with these, there is a jig that helps you drill holes through the middle in order to get screws through there if you need to. In my description below, I'll link to that jig. You'll definitely want one of those if you're working with this sort of material. As far as the wiring, what I did was, you can see the wires come out here. I zip tied them to keep them in place, you know, at the end there. And then what I did was, like a lot of videos do, I drilled a couple holes in the top of the plastic thing there. Now, I was able to get some little grommets you can see there. Those are actually grommets for Starlink cabling. And I actually do use Starlink for internet when I'm out and about. But these grommets were the right size. I then also used some silicone to make sure and seal that so it's waterproof. Although you don't have to worry about the waterproofing too much because there is a hole on the bottom of this plastic piece for water to get through. So it's all right if water gets through there, but I decided to be safe and also make sure that it's sturdy and doesn't jiggle around. So depending on your configuration, you know, this will vary for you, but the light cabling, of course, goes into the van. You also have your backup cameras cabling, which goes to the back of the van, and it fishes all the way to the front. If you don't have any walls installed, then it's very easy to fish those along. If you do, like I do, I've got these pretty walls. What I had to do was get the cabling in there, and then I used fishing tape. Just like they do in your house. You can look that up. I'll put a link to some fishing tape, and then came up through here. Back behind this panel, there's metal, but there's a couple openings here, and it goes up to the top there. So what I did was put my fishing tape, took this off, put the fishing tape up there, was able to snag that cable, and then fish it down here so that I could have the solar coming out here. Made sure and got the correct adapter then to be able to feed this into my EcoFlow. So now I've got, you know, typically on a sunny Arizona day, between 200 and 300 watts of power that's coming into the EcoFlow from there. So sometimes when I'm traveling and I've got the alternator charger on and I've got 200 to 300 watts coming from the solar, I've got 1,000 or more watts going into my EcoFlow. 1,000 watts will charge this most of the way in 3 hours. 4 hours, you're gonna top that baby off. In fact, because I have all of this, and to be honest, even when I'm running the fridge, because I can get, you know, 300 watts up there and the fridge only pulls about 50 to 60, I'm always topped off. I think I've gotten at the lowest at night in the morning, because I couldn't pull solar, around 80%, 70%, and easily able to top off once the sun comes out. And of course, once I get on the road with that baby. So this has been an amazing system. So now that I'm putting this back together, which is super easy, it's taking me like, you know, 5 minutes. A couple things that you're going to kind of keep in mind, that in this middle brace, you're going to want to have 2 rows of Velcro, 1 for each side of the slats. And because they come to the very edge, you're going to want to make sure that your Velcro goes all the way to the end so that you can have it stick at the end. What I did is the Velcro extends about, let me show you, some length. And what I did is just to make sure that's versatile. So that way, you know, no matter if I'm going back and forth here, I can make sure that I've got Velcro where I want it so it sticks nice and solid. All right, just like that, it's been maybe 2 or 3 minutes and I've got the slats and everything back up. As far as being solid, even though this end isn't drilled down or anything, it's extremely solid. I'm sitting on it right now. I've never had any of these pop out. And I know a lot of people worry about that. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna secure this? How am I gonna screw that in? Don't worry about it. You don't need to. The bed, the weight, everything's gonna hold that down. These are very secure as is. And the advantage is, just like I just showed, in 10 minutes, you can have that bed completely removed just in case you wanna haul a bunch of big stuff. Like maybe you wanna use your van to move, which I've done. And, you know, I saved thousands of dollars from renting a moving van just by using my own van. All right, super solid bed. You can't even hear any clinking or clinking. And I'm not a little guy. I'm not a big guy, but I am, what, 5'11", easily fit on this bed, very comfortable, holds my weight easily. Me and my significant other can be up here and have no problem at all, even the dog. So this is just a really simple, elegant solution. I would say a lot of van lifers are women, and some of my favorite are women. And what I love about women van lifers is that it's all about elegance. They come up with simple, really elegant, ingenious ideas. And I really took their inspiration for coming up with this one. And also the dudes, because we like to be able to have modular optional systems where we can put big toys in our space if we want to. And this bed can come out easily to do just that. So that's a story about how I turned my Ram ProMaster tour van into a roomy, practical, fun, high-tech camper van.